Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. Jeffrey, who's sitting in for Seun Okimbalo Ewutu today off. And a lot has happened in the last 24 hours in the polity. And one of the biggest conversations, actually there are two big conversations in the polity right now, that has to do with the tax reform bill. We're going to spend time. So I will need your analytical mind today on the program because the men I'll be talking numbers and the economy at the end of the day. It's been an ongoing conversation. And I'm going to tell you why this conversation is important for you to be part of. You don't walk away from this kind of conversation because it has to do with you and I, our Commonwealth, and how these monies are managed for the betterment of our country. That is, if it is getting better or getting worse, it has to do with the men and women who put in charge to manage this resources that we put together in form of taxes and all the things we collect together to serve the country. So that's why this conversation continues to be an ongoing conversation. And also we're going to touch on the issue of the budget because right now it's before the National Assembly. Different committees are hearing a presentation by the different MDAs who are coming to defend their budget. And there seems to be some level of similarity. Everybody seems to be complaining that there is not enough for them. Or the implementation process affects how they are able to meet their target in terms of the implementation of the budget. For your information, in case you're not aware, 2024 budget has been extended to June 2025. So that is a capital component of that budget. But before all of these, and there's many things, let's tell you some of the things we're hearing. If there's a man who is heaving a huge sigh of relief right now in Nigeria, it's arguably Mr. Julius Abure, following the reiteration of the Court of Appeal that he remains the national chairman of the Labour Party. The three-member panel of the Appellate Court, in a judgment delivered by Justice Hamad Barka, held that its judgment on November the 13th, 2024, which recognizes Abure as the national chairman, subsists and has not been set aside by any court. Justice Baraka made the declaration, delivering judgment in two separate appeals filed by Senator Esther Nenadi Usman and the Caretaker Committee and Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The appellate court, in a two separate appeal, held that it did not delve into the issue of leadership of the Labour Party because such issues are not justiciable. While striking out the suit for want of jurisdiction, it held that the appellate court relied on its previous judgment of November 13th last year to hold that Abure remains the national chairman of the Labour Party. Justice Nwite had in his judgment in October 2024 affirmed that Abure led leadership and the March 2024 Nnewi Convention that produced the national leadership of the Labour Party. So that's as far as the issue of the Labour Party is concerned. Let's tell you what the president is saying. He has appreciated the Nigeria's Governors Forum for unanimously endorsing the four reform bills currently before the National Assembly. The president hailed the governors for what he describes as bold leadership and commitment to fostering unity among leaders nationwide, transcending fault lines to advance national development. In a statement by Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, as Bayo Nanuga says, thus there's productive consultation between the Nigeria's Governors Forum and the Presidential Committee on Tax Force and Fiscal Committee is commendable example of cooperation between the federal and state governments. He thanked the chairman of the Governors Forum and the Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak for successfully, in his words, galvanizing support among his peers for these transformative tax bills to rejuvenate the national economy and enhance Nigeria's economic or investment landscape. So I'm going to be joined by an economist who is going to break some of these things down, and somebody who is in the non-oil sector, oil sector as an exporter, is going to also join me at some point of the program. Let's delve into some of the numbers and what this means for you, for the federal government, and for the subnationals, because the bone of contention was Section 77 of that bill. There are four bills, but there's one bill in the Nigeria Tax Administration bill that is being presented that literally threatened the entire four bills. And the president in his media charter said, whatever I have to do to get this bill passed, I will get it done. Okay, so then let's bring you our political roundup stories and we'll get to the conversation. Join us again.
There appears to be no end to the ongoing rift and leadership struggles among principal officers of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, as the acting national chairman of the party differs with the position of the National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Depo Olugunagba, on the Rivers State PDP crisis. Addressing journalists at the PDP national headquarters in Abuja, the Deputy National Secretary of the party, who acted on the instruction of the acting national chairman, notes that the National Working Committee of the party does not support the positions canvassed by Mr. Olugunagba on the crisis in Rivers State and the struggle for the office of the National Secretary of the party. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) in Edo State has condemned the takeover of its party secretariat along Airport Road in Benin City, the state capital, by the All Progressives Congress (APC) on Thursday, January the 16th, 2025. Speaking at a news conference, the chairman of the Edo PDP Caretaker Committee, Anthony Eze-Igbami, accused the APC of taking laws into their hands by forcefully reclaiming the property which does not belong to the state government. There was plenty of drama on the sidelines of the ongoing Edo Election Petition Tribunal as some All Progressives Congress APC supporters chased out private security agents from the court premises following an altercation over access denial inside the courtroom. The group, led by Kele Okunbowa, chairman of the Edo State Assets Recovery Committee, explained that the party's state chairman, Jared Tenebe, and some other executives had been denied access by security agents at the court entrance where unauthorized persons were allowed to stay. Mr. Okunbowa insisted that the security agents belonged to the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Aswai Godalo, and should not have been allowed to be around the courtroom. The fractional chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, Mr. Edozien Ijoku, has emerged as the new chairman of the National Rescue Mission. His emergence was announced at an emergency national convention of the party after Mr. Isaac Ude resigned his position. Mr. Isaac is now the organizing secretary of the party. Addressing journalists after the meeting, the new chairman offered to provide a vigorous, dynamic, and formidable opposition to the Tinubu-led government to strengthen Nigeria's democracy. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetoku, has described the disruption that occurred during the presentation of the Nigeria Police Force 2025 budget to the Joint Committees on Police Affairs and Police Institutions at the National Assembly Complex as unnecessary and avoidable, clarifying that the document he presented was shared with all committee members beforehand. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the IGP explained that two versions of the budget documents were provided to the committee members, and they include a comprehensive copy and an abridged version. The IGP explained that while both documents contained same figures and facts, the abridged version used simplified language, with the committee members unanimously agreed with a motion that the IGP should present, since they all had access to both documents.
So let's get to the conversation for today. I'm being joined in the program by the chief economist at SPM Professionals and an economist, Mr. Paul Alaje, joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Mr. Alaje, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so very much for having me.
There is a lot to talk about when it comes to the issue of revenue. And I was telling the audience and my people that, look, it's important for us to talk about this because this is our commonwealth. So, for instance, before I came on the program, I looked at what was shared as fact last November was the last sharing. And as at November, of course, the statutory revenue was about 400 billion, over 400 billion. VAT was 585 billion. EMTL, which is the electronic transfer levy, came to about 15 billion. And then now, exchange rate differential was 671 billion. But right now, the VAT for this December sharing, the VAT allocation just came out today. We're seeing that VAT has increased from 585 to 604 billion. Which is why this conversation is important, because that sharing formula. So for you, when you heard the governors come out to say, leave equality the way it is, you may tamper with population as well as derivation. So give and take. They gave 10% extra to derivation and then reduce population. How did you receive that information as an economist?
Well, thank you so very much. It's a big conversation, as you've said it. We know that in the recent time, we have not had major finance conversation that virtually everybody wants to be involved. But when it comes to the issue of taxes, if it's not even the taxpayer that are more concerned, maybe I should say the tax collectors are more concerned, because I've seen governors on one side, I've seen presidency on the other side, I've seen my brother doing great work for the country, Mr. Oyedele. On another side, I've seen the Senate Committee, House of Representatives, everybody have views. Now, when the Governors Forum came up with what they feel, that 10% should be taken from population and be added to derivation. Derivation is important. Which city, which state is consumption happening? And consumption cannot just happen if people are not residents most of the time. People seem to resident more in some location, which includes Lagos State. We may not like it, but it is the truth. The question is, what has Lagos done, or what is Lagos doing that makes consumption in Lagos to be more? There have been several arguments. Oh, because headquarters of banks are here, because headquarters of telcos are here, and so many other things are here. Okay, so which state can benefit from what we call agglomerative economics? From the expansion in Lagos, from the growth in Lagos, can it impact other states? We're not seeing most of this because Lagos seems to be encapsulated in Ogun State. But some of these things, yes, some have dropped off, especially in terms of industry, but in terms of what is happening to VAT is not yet. Perhaps this is what this committee is trying to correct. But this is the concern. Can we say overnight we want to move derivation from 20 to 60%? That will have implication. That is what the committee is proposing. Our argument, in our organization is move this from 30, move this to 30 or 35%. While you leave equality the way it has been, and take it from population. Because people where derivation is happening, means there is population control.
So in your view, do you think this was so aggressive?
No,
the proposal by the Oyedele committee was so aggressive?
I think that 60% is aggressive in the first instance. I think it should have been done in phases. The same thing I said about subsidy. Yes, if we must remove subsidy instead of having that abrupt removal, it should have been done in phases. The same with exchange rates. You know why? The laboratory of life is different from scientific laboratory where you do chemistry, titration, and all of those things. They are two different things. Countries that have implemented policies abruptly have some challenges, have some effects. Today, people are saying that there are economic quagmire. Do I think the president will deliberately want to hurt Nigeria, want to say, oh, Nigeria want to inflict pains on you? No, no leader will want to do that. But when you don't carefully understand implication of policy, we make it anyways and expect the returns to be anyhow. Check Bangladesh, check Sri Lanka, policies were implemented. And in doing it in phases, such that the impacts, people will not be exposed to the impact at once. So there might have been challenges over the years, which I'm not arguing with those who have argued for, oh, there have been challenges, backlog of problem we're trying to solve. Even in medicine, you don't take all drugs at once, especially if you have a throat infection. They tell you take one in the morning, take one in the evening. The doctors will not say swallow 20 tablets because you have to take it for 10 days and you'll be well. Something will happen to your kidney. That's why sometimes we liken economic effect to medicine. So in taking the decision, such as we feel that government revenue is dwindling, you can see what is happening to FARC. It's increasing. And the goal, perhaps, to the presidency and those making policy today is that when as FARC increases, money goes directly to local government. That's why government seems to be particular about money getting to the grassroots. Two, money goes to the state government and some stay with the federal government. Now, these monies in states, are we feeling the impact?
We're going to come to that part of impact. I'm just reserving that conversation because it's a different conversation entirely. So let's stay with, for instance, the FARC came in for November was 1.7. This is 1.4. And one of the things I want to find out from you, perhaps the thinking of some of the members of this committee and perhaps the president as well, is that some states, quote unquote, are economically docile. When we look at how IGR versus FARC allocation, there's also a political argument or restructuring and resource control to that effect. But looking at it at a plain value, some states are not economically viable. So this felt like some level of pseudo-federalism or fiscal federalism where they want to promote and reward diligence for hard work. If you bring more to the table, you should get more. Wasn't that a fair argument? By the
Very fair. I don't think Lagos should issue a contract and charge 7.5% VAT, and it's going all around the country. But what do they have to live on? The social impact will be more disastrous on the people. Because if somebody leaves, for instance, Gombe today, and he says he's going to Lagos, how do you tell the person that you are from Gombe you don't have work in Lagos? How? So as a federation, in solving our problem, Lagos has had a model over the years that is working for them. Yes, it may not be the best state in Africa, but I can tell you, it's still part of the pride. One of the things we should be proud of is Lagos State. Look at Red Line, Lagos partnering with the federal government, Nigeria Railway Corporation, to move people because of the population size. So here is the point. What are we really sharing? Average of 1.5 trillion naira. Convert that to the dollar. $1 billion for the entire federation, for over 700 local governments, for 36 states and the FCT and the almighty federal government. $1 billion. Imagine how much is that on the table. So what should we be doing is we need to change our focus and our orientation as a nation to production, to manufacturing.
Sorry for cutting you. I'm going to bring in my guest from Kano. The other argument I'm making, because there are always two sides to the coin. On one hand, we're looking at the social impact, which is a valid argument because we're a federation. On the other hand, wouldn't this further strengthening the docility of these states that are unable to generate?
I don't believe so. I never believe derivation should be the same, 20%. I never believe it. I strongly believe in that of organization that it should be moved further to about 30-35%. Mark you, in that governors forum, the governor of Lagos State is there. The governor of Rivers State is there. Governors that are leading the state are there. And it is not because Lagos is producing. VAT is not about what you produce. It's about place of consumption. And
that is a new model.
That's a new model.
That's what
I support that new model. I'm saying the rates.
Okay.
Do you understand? The model is right. The rate is what we should carefully manage.
Okay.
If not, we will not have any gain. The bill sent to the National Assembly by the president, the Taiwo Yedele committee, fantastic bill. I've said it time and again. I agree with a lot of things in that bill. Reducing multiple taxation, one of the key areas that we need to look at and reduce the multiple taxation that is going on. But when you look at rate, for instance, increasing VAT to 10% this year, in a period where you have high inflation, we are 1% from being an hyperinflation nation. Maybe 0.5% from 35%. You can when be called an hyperinflationary nation. So do you increase VAT at that time? I understand that yes, Nigeria may even pay more according to the chairman of the committee. Why? Because input-output model is not working exactly smoothly. But can we work on this working smoothly before we consider rate increase? See, what people should actually argue about the tax bill, like I've said, don't throw away the baby and the bathwater, are issues that concerns rates. Rates, taxation mostly is about rates. And so that should be our
let me ask you this before I bring in my guest from Kano. The idea of the Oyedele Committee, my understanding from reading part of the bill, is the fact that if you pay more VAT and reduce CIT, company income tax, corporate tax, it serves as an incentive to the companies to maybe expand and do more business wherever they find themselves. So this proposal by the governors are saying, okay, keep derivation at 30, leave equality, reduce population. You see that VAT, leave it the way it is. You see that reduction in CIT, leave it the way it is. Haven't we, in one fell swoop, gained on one hand and botched the idea of incentive for companies?
Okay, so my belief about VAT, about the company income tax, is that for small businesses, it should in fact reduce. Because there are a lot of implicit costs from self-servicing in terms of power, self-provision of security, self-provision of water, is that it should in fact reduce significantly. Large organization may pay. So I differ in the area of leave it the way it is, 30%. That is what companies pay. Some 25%, maybe 20%, depending on the size of the company that is paying. So, but 30% company income tax, and you pay education tax, and a few other taxes you pay when you get to the tax man. For micro and small business is quite high. The new FRS chairman anyway is making it relatively easier. And that is why if you check, it surpasses targets. Because it's managing the situation. So I think the governors, I don't have issues with the governor's submission on sharing too. I also don't have issues with them on keeping the rates. But when you say that don't reduce rates of company income tax, I don't completely agree with company, because who should get lower rate should be the conversation.
Okay, let's bring in my guest from Kano studio. Mr. Ahmed Rabiu is the MD, Dallas Inland Dry Port in Kano, and also a non-oil exporter, Vice President of NASIMA. Mr. Rabiu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so very much for having me.
And I'm sure you've been listening to the submission of the Economist, Mr. Alaje, on this particular one. But you live in the North, you do business in the North. I know the Northern governors have come to say, hey, guys, leave us out of the... We were the ones that spoke out, but what we're fighting for is going to affect states that are not as viable and some of the places we're talking about. What is your first impression looking at what was agreed yesterday? The president has said, I salute you guys.
Thank you so very much again. Indeed, we expected that will come at some time in the course of the engagements on the new tax bill. The fact is, the president presented a draft bill for processing, and the process of lawmaking requires, among others, a public hearing, which will happen after receipt of memorandum from stakeholders. The governors are a part of the stakeholders in this instance, because of the issue of how much will go to them, how much will be shared on the basis of population, how much was going to be equal population derivation. They were worried of what was going to be coming to them, and I'm happy with the kind of discussions that have taken place and with their concurrence with Mr. President. There are a lot of people who are really making contributions on the subject matter without adequately reading the details contained in the bill. The fact is, as a businessman, I'm worried with the very last point that was made, the issue of the CIT, but importantly, on the fact that the bill is bringing all legislations on taxes into one instrument and repealing all over 15, 18 that are there today. The fact is that as a businessman operating in Nigeria, not necessarily in the North, I would be happy to know that in making my projections, like for this 2025, I know what taxes will be levied on me, not the kind of situation that we have today, that a lot of discretion is being applied because there are so many legislations. Once somebody knocks on your door and brings a paper, or you receive a mail, or you receive documents in some form of assessment asking you to pay certain things, today, this process that is ongoing, we are hopeful that it should be completed. But always there is one fundamental requirement when a law is being made, that is what is the traditional, what is the transitional arrangement. I expect we from the business environment, we are coming up from the business sector, we are coming up with what we think we will ask to be waived, to be corrected, to be improved. Students will also look at what has been said regarding what will affect them, how they will be financed, and how, what rate and what kind of concession. In every sector, of course, the governors have done their bit. We'll expect the labor will come in and say to what extent it is going to affect them and come in with their contributions and suggestions. But on the whole, the bill is good. What it has brought increase in VAT actually is one area I will not also encourage, because the issue of CIT, the company's income tax, and the issue of VAT are different issues. One is funded by the consumers. The other one is coming from the businesses. We are looking at how we are going to have an improvement in our earnings, so that rather than pay more tax, the tax is relaxed, because it's one of very important fiscal tool. Taxes are reduced so that they encourage production, especially for industries, and they encourage business activities generally. If the taxes become cutthroat, and we look at the state of the inflation today, and then whatever you are earning from your business, whatever revenue you earn, you find it is distributed between the bank, the labor, and if the tax that goes to government also takes so much, government forgetting that when we are in business, like I currently employ about 200 persons, and I pay, I've taken that burden off the street, I have taken that burden, reduced unemployment by the employment I have made, and if the environment is made more conducive, I will grow to 300 to 1,000 staff and more. And the moment you take one person in your employment, you have taken the entire family, the nuclear family and the first extended family. And you are relieving the government of the stress that has today been creating bandits here and there, and people really create a lot of problems. For those government, I have heard my colleague here saying the issue of the derivation to be increased or to be what it is, even at 20%. All right,
Mr. Rabi, let me just throw in this question. So in your books, maybe my producer can just show what the governors that agreed, just that slide showing what the NJ proposal for tax reform. So that's it. Equality, population, derivation. You can see the percentage. Okay, that's supposed to be 30%, not 20%. No increase in VAT as the element I was looking at. No reduction in company income tax. Let me come to you, Mr. Rabiu. So what would you, now that they are proposing that there shouldn't be any increase in income, company income tax, no reduction in company income tax, as a businessman, how does that come across to you?
I really do not appreciate that bit, because they are looking at the increase, the effect it will have in what they are going to receive as governors. It is their own, they are the stakeholders. That on my own side, what I am saying is that point that I have just made, that if the taxes are reduced and I'm able to operate profitably, sustainable profit and comfortable profit, then I will, because already the moment I earn 100 naira, a bit of it goes to the labor, which may be up to 20-30%, especially with what has happened with the wage increase, and what will go to the banks for the fund provision, than what I will pay in terms of the taxes, because earnings before interest and tax could be big. If the tax is high, the interest is high because of the current trend, and what I pay to labor is high, then what do I, as a capital owner, what do I go home with? So I plead with the governors to appreciate, we are stakeholders like them. They on their side, they are looking at what they get. I am looking at what can keep me alive and make be sustained prosperous.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Alaje, on some of the things we're looking at as far as this whole issue, and I want to do some level of geo-economic mapping, because you're making a case for the social element, which is an agreeable case. So it used to be 80% for doing nothing. So the current law says for just being a state and having population, you have 80% access to the purse, and then for your hard work, you just have 20%. Now, the proposal by the Oyedele committee says no. For having the status of a state and having a population, you should have access to just 40. Hard work should be rewarded with 60. The governors are saying no. Let's just reduce it. Let's take it at 70 for status and population, and then the remainder for derivation. Geo-map the country in terms of the economics now across the country, in terms of the geopolitical zones. What should each government be focusing on, so that this sacrifice being made or this proposal being pushed by them, we can see result on the life of the people? Because that's always the argument. We can argue all these numbers for all we want. We can even increase the numbers for all we want, but the average Nigerian hardly feels the impact of how this trickles down to them.
Thank you so very much. I think the first thing is, the way Nigeria is, we are ripe for our own development. If we are purposeful, if we unite, and if we jettison things that are separating us. Look at the north central especially, Benue, Plateau, Kogi, Niger, among others, the remaining states that are in the north central, they are blessed in arable land. And I say, it appears their land seems to be better than every other in terms of some agro outputs, from Irish potato to production of fruits and so on and so forth. Yam, Nasarawa State, blessed in these resources. But who is planting? We have left planting most of the time to traditional local farmers. We say that Nigeria should focus on agriculture, and I've heard this from time immemorial, that if we focus on agriculture, we're going to see that our country will be delivered. But there is no conscious effort. There's been a time where one government came up with Operation Feed the Nation. But after that, what happened? We have also had agriculture revolution. But after that, what is our current, or in recent time, recent history, what do we have a national agricultural plan, development plan? I doubt. If we have it, where is it? How many people are planting? We are increasing in population, but we're not increasing in outputs from our farms. And in areas where farmers are trying to farm, we have insecurity. So the north, especially the north central, there's the concept of comparative cost advantage. We know that we don't have enough capacity when it comes to manufacturing, but how do we get there? Last administration looked at rice production. Fantastic idea. The central bank supported some farmers. Yes, some did not, in all honesty. But let's look at those that did. They are farming. Because of that announcement, I did not start with that last administration, even the administration before.
Okay.
Buhari administration and Jonathan administration this time. People started investing in mills to do what? To mill rice. So you started hearing rice, local rice from the time of Adewumi Adesina, Audu Ogbe, and the last Minister of Agriculture. That is one thing that happened between the PDP government and APC government. There was some level of continuity in agriculture, especially in rice production. Now, if we had continued that trajectory till now, by deliberately and focusing and investing in agriculture, I'm just talking of the north or north central, you would have seen significant output. But leave it. Go to core north areas where we have arable land for cash crops. How many areas in the core north today are we talking about cash crop? What even dominates headlines in core north areas? I mean, northwest, northeast. One insecurity or the other. Then come down to the south. We want to talk about southeast, and we know what we know them for. Commerce, trading. So, but most of the car engines, because when you want to change your car or you want to change your motor part, which of the region comes to your mind? By now, shouldn't we have said that because we seem to have a lot of people that have knowledge in this area, can't we, for instance, Southeast Governors Forum, find somewhere in the Southeast where this is actually happening and make it a big business? Or create a training center or an investment center that all of this can grow.
Okay.
Or look at South-South. What stops South-South state from having their own refinery? South-South state from having their own refineries. Should it be just for private sector or for federal government? They are rich, they are getting the derivation.
Some are having airlines, by the way.
So one has airlines. I mean, one or two have airlines. So and look at the airlines doing well. Come to Southwest. Okay, maybe because of time.
We're going to come back. We're going to go on this quick, but when we come back, we're going to delve into some of the subnational geo-economic mapping I want you and Mr. Rabiu to do, and whether we're not over-centralizing, which is one of the concerns some people are raising that could lead to corruption. There are so many things to explore as far as this tax reform bill is concerned, and we're here to do just that. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. I still have my guest with me, Mr. Paul Alaje, Chief Economist at SPM Professionals in our Lagos studio, and Mr. Ahmed Rabiu, MD, Dallas Inland Dry Port, joining us from our Kano studio. Mr. Rabiu, let me come to you on looking at the tax bill, literally the four bills, as from an investor point of view. Does this suggest that it imposes a sense of investor confidence? I'll get that reply from both of you, but let me start with you.
Indeed, because when you have one legal document for all taxes, and you are bringing in your resources from abroad, or you are investing from the country, that is, you are a Nigerian operating in Nigeria, the comfort you have is your plans will capture what will not be varied by any by unknown laws to you. When the laws are too many, there is no way you will be aware of all of them at the time you are doing any new business. So now that we have one document, revenue bill, that spells out everything and the procedure, all we have said is definitely Nigeria should have a development plan. I had the privilege of being on the Vision 2010. I was also on Vision 2020. But we need to really have a development plan that has already spelled out the fiscal culture and direction. Now, with this development, that the bold initiative of the current administration of coming up with one tax bill, it has already helped the way, because future plans, when it comes into effect, from 2026 particularly, whoever is going to start any new business will look at the document, use what he has got there to plan and to also be able to comfort the setting by ensuring that whatever is to be paid is planned for adequately. So we need the government to look at that position of revisiting, not the MTF and those others, but to have a holistic document. 2026 is where we are. If the government could, 25 today, if the government could consider having a development plan to the end of 2030, yes, it is to capture everything. This committee on tax has done a fantastic job. When I look at the document, I have seen that they have really a very clear view of what the tax regimes that we have currently existing because of the multiplicity of laws and agencies and organizations collected. So it is a good thing for the business community, both those indigenous and those that are being attracted to come in with their foreign direct investment. When they see we have this direction, they will definitely also be very happy.
Mr. Alaje, I'm sure you advise investors when they look at what we're doing in terms of this reform. Is there confidence there? And this whole political element that is coming up, how much of confidence is it passing across to the mind of investors?
Well, to a large extent, the tax bill itself is good, and I've mentioned that again and again. And I think that it will increase confidence. Multiple taxation is currently the order of the day. We need to do away with that. Two, there are a lot of uncertainty, people shifting the goalposts in the middle of the game. All of those are going to be removed because of the new tax bill. What investors may not be comfortable with is to continue to oscillate rates from 10% to 12.5%, eventually to 15%. That in itself, we should have some level of stability as to what rates will be. So, but to a large extent, to a very large extent, I think the new tax bill imposes better confidence than what we are doing now. And when you look at the tax bill and the current regime, you know that the current tax regime is not going to take us to anywhere, because people only know what they are bringing into Nigeria. When it comes to taxes, there are a lot of things that are perhaps not there, because there are several documents that carries bills, laws that have been passed for taxes in Nigeria. But, you know, harmonizing them together, we go a long way. You know, and those 4 bills, by the way, is helpful to help people have direction, especially the administration and joint tax board. The role they will play key role in harmonizing some of the decisions. So to that extent, I believe that it will impose confidence. And I've said what we just need to do is to touch the I and cross the T's so that we can have a relatively perfect document that everybody is comfortable with. Yeah, we are looking at foreign investors, but what happens to local investors? Local investors' confidence is important. But there's a question you asked before you went to the MD of the inland dry port. Is the issue of VAT. See, VAT is a disincentive to consumers. The consumers are the one paying VAT. I buy a commodity from you, 100,000. I'm to pay 7,500. You now say if I buy the same commodity, I will now pay 10,000 naira. I will think twice. Is it necessary? But if I don't buy, investors cannot expand their business.
So that's the complexity.
So you need to look at it from the area of naira and kobo. That is why now that there is economic concerns, which we can't shy away from, even though we hope that the economic concern will not be there, but the numbers are saying the opposite, from inflation to GDP growth rate to the net worth of our economy. Countries have been here. We will surpass it, but we need to accept where we are, then plan for the future. Now, bringing an increase in VAT may not be the way to go now. I'm not saying will not be the way to go forever. I'm saying may not be the way to go now. When we see economic prosperity, when inflation goes down significantly, and you're introducing it because inflation may surge, partly. So if that happens and you are increasing VAT, what happened when we increased VAT in 2019? Inflation increased. The numbers is recent. Inflation increased. So, and some of the committee members even said in 2019 that if you increase VAT, inflation would increase, and inflation increased.
So, Mr. Alaje, my apologies. At the end of the day, I want us to trickle it down. The bottom line of all of this conversation is how it impacts you and I. Whether we share whatever percentage we want to share. The truth remains that Nigerians are not feeling the impact of government at any level as they should feel. And this is 2025. More things are coming on stream. What exactly should be, what are the options left or available to Nigerians to be able to get what they want in terms of good governance? People are suffering. Literally, people are suffering. I know that I know of a car that used to maybe 30,000 naira to fill your tank. Now it's over 200,000. That is the reality that we are feeling as a people. So when all this VAT argument is made and these monies are shared, we don't feel the impact. So what is the sense in all of this debate?
Well, to my mind, when subsidy is removed, naira is floated, all the impacts, we can feel it in our personal economy. How much can we get in terms of revenue relative to what we need to spend? We're spending more. The growth rate in what we earn as revenue is not as high as what we are receiving as revenue. So the impact is there. Now, when increase in rate, all my conversation mostly is around rates. The policy decision, everything, to me, they are really great. And I think we should encourage it. And I'm also speaking to legislatures. Please give this bill a chance. The Governors Forum have said, let's review the derivation from 60% to 30%. I don't think that will be the end. If the presidency wants to bargain, for how long will it remain at 30%? For instance, Lagos State. For instance, Rivers State. How long will it remain at 30%? Can we have a review, maybe after 3 years? By that time, a lot would have happened in our economy. Nigerian economic growth rate mostly go high at pre-election years. So pre-election, we know the impact. Politicians come on board and support. But what should we be doing? This is not the time for Nigerians to give up. This is the time to hold our leaders accountable. From where? Local governments. Federal government is now paying local government directly. If you check FAC, money shared in December, most of which went directly to local government. After that, state government. After that, federal government. So our job as a people is to decently and orderly ask questions. And if we see projects, for instance, 2024 budget, not just for the federal, even for the states. These are the things that I said has been done. Now, can we check, are they there? If they are there, then kudos to those who have done it. If they are not there, we need to ask questions.
Let's take it to Mr. Rabiu. Mr. Rabiu, I'll stay with you for a bit. Let's begin with the issue of impacts that I've just asked Mr. Elijah. But on the other hand, let's also look at this model of collection. Remember what happened with the TSA? And now a lot of people are trying to run off and run away from the TSA because of the bureaucracy that encumbers the TSA. And now we're here again on this tax issue. Do you think we're over-centralizing in some sense? And how does it affect development in your view?
I think affecting development will not be negative. As I mentioned, as a businessman, I would want to know taxes that will be levied on me in a single legislation. That would be comforting. Just to visit what my colleague just mentioned regarding the question you asked me first before I go on other issues. The CIT was the question. You asked me my position on what the governors have said, that the tax should not be reduced, and they emphasized that we need to have a reduction in cost of doing business. And that is informing the reason for reducing the company income tax. And for the what I have said, I want to really share the same views with him, but consumption is called consumption. That's why demography, how the income also itself is distributed, how jobs are created, and how much disposable income is earned by the populace matters a lot. So in my own,
Go ahead,
in my own
please.
opinion, my understanding of the whole issue regarding this tax is it is very useful to the business community. But the question you asked is regards the impact and the current economic difficulties we have found ourselves all in. When you revisit the issue of what goes on derivation, and you find that certain states, for sometimes businesses are not being done at all. Even the consumption has gone underground. You don't know actually what is being consumed there. And so when you come in, the figures will go to perhaps nothing because of the security challenges in those areas. And then because also the roads that have traversed our country, and most of them, more than 60% as we speak, are bad. The rail services, which should provide ease of movement of cargo, that is the freight train services, are just, as we speak now, not adequate. That the revolution that has started by the previous government is being continued by the current administration, And we must appreciate the Honorable Minister for Transportation, Senator Said Ahmed Ali, who has really been coming to Kano to monitor the progress of the job and to ensure that the Ala Inland Dry Port is able to enjoy freight train services. And we also address the special assistant to advisor to the president, Haji Hadiza Bala Osman, who also does get in touch to make sure these things happen. What I believe is the government has set in place persons and vehicles to help provide relief to the current difficulties. The person that is holding forth at the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment was the person that was the secretary of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council and advisor to the president on that. And today she has this opportunity to cover all. We have had a parley with her in Lagos, and we are in Abuja also, and we are in the next 3 days also be engaging with the bulk of industry. All this engagement that we always plead. I had the privilege of being on the 27-man presidential minimum wage committee, and one of the issues we raised then was to make everything functional, from the health insurance to the transport to be provided here and there, to provide relief so that whatever a person earns is a take home, because that is whatever disposable income is earned, the income, if it is challenged by what you cannot envisage, you cannot project,
Mr. Rabiu,
wake up what you used to pay.
Yeah, okay, just as you land on your thought, are you seeing anything from government at the federal and the state level? This is a direct question to you as a businessman. Before I come to Mr. Alaja, as we begin to wind down, are you seeing anything from the government? Can you hear me now?
One of the comfort from
no, just hold on, just hold on, Mr. Rabiu. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you well.
Okay, I said I just wanted to ask a question. Yes, I just as a wind down. As a businessman who operates from a state and other parts of the country, is there anything government is doing that encourages you to pay tax?
That is a fact. Government is remaining as a government. The police are seen here and there keeping security, and the undercover security also doing some work. People are able to still sleep in their homes. The rate of crime, especially the bandits, kidnapping and others, is actually reducing. So it's reducing. A lot of sanity is resuming, and it is when there is peace in the country that you can actually leave your house for the market, for the farm, for the factory, and be able to create wealth and create employment, that you have more people that have their hands on, engaged, adding money. So I think what the government of the Federation has come with is bringing that opportunity. And at the said levels, various states are coming with different kind of innovations to make sure that they are able to grow industry and commerce in the individual states. So as a taxpayer, the concerns really is government should be a facilitator. Government cannot provide everything. From my background, provision of electricity is key for industrial development. What government needs to do is to facilitate investment in that sector, both from indigenous businessmen and venture capitalists and from foreign direct investment, to generate it, not for government to have to raise that money. Because as far as I'm concerned, the fiscal direction is the key thing. And it is being encouraged when there is enforcement of law.
Mr. Rabi,
what has been happening, and I think I am confident if we continue at the rate we are moving, Nigeria will be a better place. But government must appreciate, especially at the center, that there are economic hardships and there is need to always provide some relief.
All right, Mr. Rabiu, I think your point is well noted. Let me bring it to Mr. Alaja. Mr. Alaja asked him that question because by just general overview, you can see commitment and aggression in terms of revenue optimization. Optimization is stronger in this government than even productivity. And what is taxation doesn't necessarily grow economy. We all know that. It can be a driver to a large extent, but productivity is what is the game changer. So how can we see because some people have argued that taxation will lead the way. So what should come first? Is it aggressive productivity or this optimization through taxation? You guide us as an economist.
The question will be, what are we taxing? Manufacturing must be the first. This is not the first government that has come to increase rate of their abroad, but the good idea this government is doing is harmonizing taxation. But what is important is that, is this increase leading to manufacturing? If we want to have a great nation, which we are all praying for in our mosques and in our churches, One thing we must pray for is not just for God to save us, that is important, but we must become a net exporter of manufactured products, goods that are produced on our soil. At that time, we will not all be sharing $1 billion, because all we are sharing, if you ask me, at fact, is an average of $1 billion. We might be sharing 10, we might be sharing 20, we might be sharing 50 to our government. That is where governors will be in better position, local government chairmen, to invest more. But where will this money come from? Will it come from services? Our GDP composition will change from net service providers, because service dominates, after that agriculture. What will now change, what will now dominate will be manufacturing. China, that we want to be like, we must be ready to give the pains that Chinese people are giving. So for me, yes, we've seen the bill. I support the bill, but the rate should not change. What we should invest on, and I hope that someday we're going to see that conversation between presidency and governors forum. How much of your budget do you want to really invest? Not in administrative investment, but in real investment, talking about things that will enhance manufacturing and provide security.
We're totally out of time. I just realized we don't have time. I wanted us to talk about the budget, because 60% of the budget, the reason I asked that last question is that if you look at the budget, 60%,
60 to 70,
60% of that budget goes to reputation management through debt service and operations through recurrent expenditure, coming to about 30 trillion naira, when our revenue is 36. And then our capital component is about 14 trillion. So you can see the shortfall to be able to do productive activity. But I must thank you. That's a conversation for another. Mr. Paul Alaje is a chief economist and chief economist at SPM Professionals, joining us from our Lagos studio, and Mr. Ahmed Rabiu, MD, Dallas Inland Dry Port from Kano, a non-oil exporter and the vice president of NASIMA. Thank you so much, sirs, for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, that's it on the program. I did tell you that it's going to be analytical. I hope you had a good time. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Bye-bye.